Has there ever been a better time to be a fan of Brentford or Brighton and Hove Albion? I don't think so. Two clubs with just 15 top-flight seasons between them, never in better health, both making themselves at home in distinctive atmospheric new stadiums, both trying to make themselves at home in the Premier League, are both really good for the Premier League. You know, in this corporate global era for big league football, two clubs that look first to their local communities and put the names of those communities proudly on the map. And best of all, two clubs that can beat Manchester United, can beat Arsenal on their day. Give them a good hiding, actually. I mean, I'm going to stick my neck out and say that Brentford and Brighton may never win the Premier League, but the super clubs that do will have to play well to take points off either of them. Victory for Brentford this evening will lift them to 8th place in the table. Victory for Brighton would put them in 4th position. Brentford are currently level with Liverpool. Brighton are level with Newcastle. Punching is the word that comes to mind. Never mind the turnover and the transfer budget. Feel the passion and the pride. Their balance sheets say they should be looking over their shoulders at the relegation zone. But Brentford and Brighton are upwardly mobile football clubs. Scott Minto alongside me. There is a smile on the face of these two football clubs at the moment.
Absolutely, you're absolutely spot on, Clive. You know, these are two teams who not that long ago were really low down in the football echelon of the leagues, and yet where they are now on the top tier and absolutely punching, but fighting their way through it and surviving. It's absolutely incredible. It's a great time to be a Brentford fan. It's a great time to be a Brighton fan.
Ivan Toney and Lewis Dunk just shaking hands. The two captains this evening. They'll be seeing plenty of each other. And let's not forget, having said all that, both were beaten last time out. Brentford beaten and bruised by their heaviest defeat in 4 years of Thomas Frank. Neither team has suffered consecutive defeats since February, March time. They're both ambitious, but they're both realistic. They know the importance of momentum. Both lost momentum worryingly at the start of this calendar year. Both finished last season strongly, and they're looking to push on now. The Brentford players are in a huddle as the Brighton players wait for them to complete that. And referee Michael Salisbury looks ready to get the game underway. Black History Month has seen the return of the taking of a knee before Premier League games. It's not compulsory, and Ivan Toney, for one, will make his anti-racism stance clear in other ways. He stands as everybody else kneels, but the overriding message remains the same in the bid to make sure that the problem does not remain the same. The weekend starts here, the first of 3 exclusive live Premier League commentaries on Talksport in the coming 24 hours is 11th place Brentford versus 7th place Brighton and Hove Albion. Brighton in a change strip of all pale bluey green. Brentford in their traditional red and white stripes, and the home team are playing from right to left as we look on from the main stand here at the G-Tech Community Stadium. The first free kick of the game is awarded to Brighton and Hove Albion. 4 places and 4 points separating them now. What and who will make the difference in the coming 90 minutes? Where do you see this game being won and lost, Scott?
Well, I said earlier, Clive, I actually feel it's, you know, as bad as Brentford were defending and trying to play out from the back last week, I think that I can see them trying to press Brighton. De Zerbi is coming into a Brighton side that's full of confidence, playing really good football under Graham Potter, but he actually wants to play even more so from the back. And I think Brentford, if they can get the ball off them, then there'll be chances for them straight away. If Brighton can beat that press, then suddenly they can go on attack, and we know how good they are on the counter-attack as well. So that, for me, is going to be absolutely key.
The ball is in the hands of the Brentford goalkeeper, David Raya. Last time he conceded 5 goals, it was against Brentford. He was the Blackburn goalkeeper over at Griffin Park back in 2019. He had 5 put past him by Newcastle last weekend. He takes the goal kick long towards the head of Ivan Toney. No attempt at all by Veltman to play the ball. He was just wrestling Toney, but that ball sailed over the heads of both of them, and the referee saw nothing wrong with it.
But you can see already, can't you, that David Raya kicked it long. You know, it wasn't about messing about in the first few minutes. That's not what they wanted to do. We know that Brighton were ready to pounce. No, get it long, get it towards Ivan Toney, overplayed it, but you can see that they're not falling into the trap they did last week.
A little bit of head tennis in midfield, and the ball falls for Matthias Jensen to get it down on the ground and attract a sliding challenge from Moises Caicedo, which concedes a free kick to the home team about 15 paces inside the Brighton half of the field, left of centre as Jensen looks at it, and he will almost certainly try to sweep the ball in towards the tall centre-backs going forward now. Aya and Pinnock. It's actually being left now to Brian Mbeumo to take it with his left foot. But there's a posse of players waiting just outside the penalty area. Brighton holding a line maybe 5 metres outside the box. And Mbeumo has very cleverly played it to Toney, who tries to side-foot it across the face of the goalie, drawn into a wider position. It was a well-worked free kick move. But Brentford unable to sustain the attack. The ball bounces out of play for a throw into Brighton, 15 metres from the corner flag that they're defending on their left-hand side.
Should have done better there, Toney, actually. Everyone went in, he stayed in behind, and it was a poor volley from him.
But Brentford have got it back, and Wissers played it into the edge of the penalty area. The combination was a sharp one, kept alive by Janelt, played to the edge of the penalty area and across the Brighton goal, where Dunk has to get his head to the ball. It's actually gone for a goal kick. He was beaten to it in the air by the raiding presence of Frank Onyeka, and that was a sharp chance, but it was an opportunity for Brentford.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Brighton trying to play out this time. Brentford win the ball back within a couple of passes. They've got the cross in, and do you know what, Onyeka, that is a really good opportunity for him. It looks like it's come off his shoulder, but he is actually only 8 to 10 yards out, right in front of goal. A proper connection, and that would have been really difficult for Sanchez to save it.
Frank Onyeka, who has never scored for Brentford. Brighton do play it out from the back this time. A little combination between Gross and Welbeck doesn't come off, and Brentford have won it back in a promising position, but Jensen has been run off the ball, and again Brighton just trying to be a little too cool, a little too clever. McAllister wanted more time than he really had. A little fortunate perhaps to get a relieving free kick, but Brentford are at it here. They started the game hungrily.
Absolutely. Really good start from the home side, and again I think the atmosphere was great, and what happened pre-match with the lights was superb. It gets the crowd up for it, which then gets the players up for it, and in the first 5 or so minutes, Brighton not been able to keep the ball. It's been all Brentford so far.
They've tried to play through the Brentford press again rather perilously. It's gone high forward towards Ivan Toney on the edge of the penalty area, headed down but headed away by Veltman. Here's Henry keeping the move alive. Crosses a low one into the penalty area where Dunk is there to clear his lines up towards the halfway line, and Welbeck chested down though and brought forward by Ben Mee. It's gone out of play for a Brentford throw-in midway through the Brighton half of the field. A throw-in which Rico Henry will take. Just a pause to this early momentum that Brentford have been able to establish, and Brighton again is trying to calm things down before Lewis Dunk just does have to hoist the ball high down the field. We've had 5.5 minutes. We're live on Talksport. It's Brentford 0, Brighton 0.
Well, that's what Brighton have to do at the moment. They're put under so much pressure. Each time they've tried to pass it out, Brentford have been on top of them. So Brighton just need to make sure it's almost territory at the moment.
But Mbeumo has lost the ball dangerously here, and now Trossard on the edge of the Brentford penalty area can't make the most of it. In fairness to Brian Mbeumo, having made a bad mistake, he had the presence of mind and the pace to get back and atone for it. Toney goes down under pressure looking for a free kick as he tries to hold the ball up, but the referee seems disinterested, and McAllister is on the ball now for Brighton, trying to feed it forward, but a cut out in midfield by Onyeka, steered forward by Mee. It's fallen now, and an opportunity for Brentford to break forward down the left hand side with Onyeka again. Janelt Early forward gets it back from Johan Wisser. Now out to the right-hand side where Christopher Ayer is playing as a right back this evening for Brentford. Must be the tallest right back in captivity. The 6 feet 6 inch Christopher Ayer. Knee forward to Wisser, and it sticks with him immediately, and he feeds Henry and goes on for a return ball, but across comes Adam Webster to try to clear the lines. Veltman can't keep it, and Brentford have a throw in an attacking position. 20 metres from the corner flag on the left-hand side. Henry takes it to the feet of Tony. Now Wisser trying to feed the ball in to the penalty area. Still with Johan Wisser, who tries a very ambitious curling effort from 20 metres out, and it's wide of the left-hand post of Rob Sanchez. And a bit of breathing space for Brighton. They need it.
Well, they do need it, and they only got breathing space because the ball's out of play at the moment. I mean, look, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Brentford players ready to pounce. And what is it, 3, 4 Brighton players? You know, they've just had a little pass and then knocked it long, so I think that's the best thing to do. Try and beat the press and get all the numbers in, make that initial pass and then go long quickly. You take out half the team. Right
now, nobody in the Premier League has a better defensive record than Brighton. Just 9 goals conceded in their first 8 games. 3 of those 9 were unfortunate own goals, but Brentford have put 4 past Manchester United here. They put 5 past Leeds United here already this season. When they're good, they're very good. Ayer with a throw-in for them inside Brighton territory. Tony holds it back and holds it up and plays it back to Pinnock. Now down the right-hand side, and a chance from Burmo to attack the left flank of the Brighton defence. Tony in now to the on-rushing figure of Onyeka, but he's unable to control the ball. Just a little too anxious to make an impression, and it's a cheap goal kick for Brighton and Hove Albion. 0-0.
It is, but he's getting in dangerous positions, Onyeka, isn't he? He's not just playing as like a holding number 6 or number 4. He's really pushing on. And again, there's boos from the crowd because Brighton are taking time, and a goal kick is a slight little touch. They need to get rid of it really soon.
They've won it back again in a dangerous position, Brentford. It's fallen rather fortuitously this time for Adam Webster to play it out to Estupiñán on the left-hand side. One other league game being played in England this evening. It's a 7:45 kick up on Merseyside, and it's Tranmere Rovers 1, Crewe Alexandra 0 in that League 2 game between 2 mid-table sides at Prenton Park. It's 0-0 here in the Premier League live on Talksport. We've had 9 minutes. McAllister back to Webster, and again a little uncertain in possession. Gets it back from Veltman. Brighton just trying to take a little bit of the heat that Brentford have put on them out of the early stages of the game, but they've been a little uncertain going forward, it has to be said. Veltman now up towards March, who is handled well by me at the expense of a throw-in to Brighton. Midway through the Brentford half on the Brighton right, Trossard shows for it, plays it back out to Solly March, left-footed from the right-hand side. Veltman in support of him, but behind him, and all the way back to Webster on the halfway line. Now square to the Brighton skipper, Lewis Dunk, and out to Estupiñán, 15 metres inside the Brentford half, but again, Brighton struggling to make progress. That's a better ball from McAllister into the path of Caicedo. Trossard just lays it off to Estupiñán, now in a crossing position, drills it in low, and Gross is there. McAllister, Veltman, out to March, just outside the penalty area. Brighton left, crossed in towards the far post, but it's an easy catch for David Raya. And the first fluency we've seen from Brighton all night.
Absolutely, the best passage of play so far from Brighton, and it was because the whole of the Brentford midfield didn't push in. You had Yenelt just sitting back trying to protect the back four, but that's not what he should be doing. If a couple of players have gone, he needs to go in as well. We know how good Brighton are in the little 1-2s and outnumbering opposition midfielders, and that's how they were able to create that opportunity. And actually for Solly March, that was a really poor cross. He had plenty of time, whip it in. It was a simple catch in the end for Raya.
Tony has won a free kick from a very robust challenge by Webster. Brentford's goals have just dried up in the last month or so. Just the one scored in their last 3 matches, that was a penalty. And worse still, that 5-1 thumping at Newcastle last weekend followed the 3 that Arsenal scored here recently. And the stats do say they've been facing more shots than last season, although some of their wounds on Tyneside were self-inflicted in many respects. Jensen takes a free kick high in towards me inside the penalty area. It's not his best, and it bounces out for a Goal kick to Brighton. Rob Sanchez at one end of this stadium, David Raya at the other, and I think every chance that both of them will be in the Spanish World Cup squad. Unai Simon of Athletic Bilbao is the undisputed number one at the moment, but David De Gea has not been selected for nearly a year now, and Sanchez and Raya are the backups to Simon as things stand. Forward comes Aya now out to the edge of the penalty area where Mbomo is held up and well challenged in the end by Moses Caicedo. Into midfield where Gross now can help it on to March just inside the Brentford half of the field. Again back to the centre backs just to settle things down. Webster square to Dunk. Brentford want to play this game at a different tempo to Brighton, and it's a battle of wills at the moment, and Dunk has given it away now to Wisser, but he's manhandled in midfield by Gross. Brentford win it back again, and once more that appetite in their general play and their press in particular is causing headaches for Brighton.
Absolutely, you're spot on about the tempo. Brighton want to play at a slow tempo, just pass it, take 2, 3, 4 touches. Brentford aren't allowing that at all, and at the moment it's Brentford who are winning it.
Brentford 0, Brighton 0, live on Talksport. Rico Henry is on the ball for Brentford on the left-hand touchline. March goes all the way back with him and manages not just to hold him up, but also to win a throw-in for Brighton. About 25 metres from the corner flag there, defending on the right-hand side, which Joel Veltman has really established himself as a centre-back, really, in the last 12 months, but he's very comfortable in those wider positions on the right-hand side, and sometimes difficult to work out exactly with Brighton and Hove Albion, but I fancy they are playing a back four tonight with Veltman and Estepinian as full-backs. Estepinian doing some defending on the edge of his own penalty area. Dunk forward to McAllister, back to Webster again, on to Veltman again, just trying to buy some time and space, but forced to go long where Ethan Pinnock heads it forward. McAllister wins it back and Caicedo's on the ball, and now Estepinian can get forward into the Brentford half of the field with some promise. Edge of the penalty area now, it's Leandro Trossard trying to make a shooting space for himself. He's managed to dink the ball into Welbeck, who does get a shot away, and that's well blocked by Pinnock with an immediate challenge, but they've worked that with more promise of Brighton, and they have the ball again with McAllister in the heart of the Brentford half of the field. Goes square to Caicedo, out to his fellow countryman Estepinian, but the pass from the Ecuador international left back is overhit for Trossard, but just signs of Brighton starting to settle.
Yes, they are. They just got half a chance for Danny Welbeck there. As the ball was played into him, he took a touch and then he took 2 more touches. It's almost you're inside the box, there's loads of people around you. Once you take that first touch, get your body right to shoot early before the defence can get themselves set. And by the time he took that second, third, fourth touch, then had the shot, the defenders of Brentford were able to block it.
No goals this season for Danny Welbeck, but no criticism either. He's led the line in all but one of their Premier League games. He was outstanding at Manchester United. He had chances at Liverpool. He won the penalty that Brighton had at West Ham. He's in there again with a header. As a cross comes in from the left-hand side from Estepinian, just couldn't force the ball with any power. And it's a pretty comfortable save for Raya, but it was another side of goal for Danny Welbeck.
Yeah, and Estepinian is getting forward now, isn't he? He receives the ball sort of in line with the 18-yard box. It's a really good ball in. And again, you just want Danny Welbeck to just go in with a bit more aggression, but get his arms up. If he has to foul the Brentford defender, then so be it. But look as if he's going in with absolute purpose. I'm going to stick the ball in the back of the net, and the referee gives a foul, so be it. He didn't, and in the end it was a bit of a weak header.
Over a quarter of an hour play. Brentford 0, Brighton 0. A wasted throw-in by Ivan Toney, dealt with by Webster, cleared downfield by Sanchez, only as far as Vitaly Yamal to use his arm to control the ball. Well-placed referee spotted it, and Brighton have a free kick midway inside their own half. They've taken just the 1 point from Roberto De Zerbi's first 2 games in charge, but they were always in the match against Spurs last weekend. They may even have won their match at Liverpool a week earlier. 5 wins, 2 defeats so far this season, De Zerbi is a rarity. He's a manager getting a job at a club that's actually going well. That doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't happen very often, and you know what? That's obviously a positive in one way, but it puts a lot of pressure on him in another, because there's no way he can keep that up. What were they, 4th when he took over? You know, they're not going to keep that up. Graham Potter couldn't have done that. So anything when they finish further down, and they've got some tough games coming up as well.
Here's Gross coming forward for Brighton on the edge of the penalty area. He's found Trossard, who should have done better. His control was poor. It was an attack that was again instigated by another bold run down the left-hand side by the Ecuador international left-back Pervis Estepinian. He's started 5 of the last 6 games now since his £15 million move from Villarreal. De Zerbi has referred to him as an unpolished diamond, but you know, he's played 90-odd games in La Liga. He played in a Champions League semi-final against Liverpool in May. He's played for his country against Argentina and Brazil this year. He's no rookie, and he's certainly caught the eye in the absence now of Cucurella, who's moved on to Chelsea. And here come Brighton down that left-hand side again, and it was another poor touch by Trossard which let the attack down as Pascal Gross made a promising run beyond him. But Estepinian looks a good replacement for Cucurella.
No, he's a very good player. He's very athletic. He's a decent defender. I wouldn't say he's a brilliant defender, but he's decent. But he loves to get forward. He's got a good left foot. And it was a pass where he was offside, Trossard there, but at least Brighton are now, they're not only keeping the ball, but they're playing more into Brentford's half. After that initial start from Brentford, Brighton are slowly starting to control the game themselves.
Estepinian coming forward again, and Burmo has to go back with him. Estepinian wins the challenge against Ayer. He's got the ball again just outside the Brentford half of the field. Pinnock comes out from centre-back to engage him and dispossess him, but only at the expense of a throw-in, which Estepinian takes to Caicedo. Both Ecuador internationals. There's another one, Jeremy Sarmiento, on the substitutes bench. All 3 of them will be heading to the World Cup finals now that Ecuador's place in Qatar has been confirmed. Long diagonal ball out to the right-hand side that Solly March can't control under pressure from Rico Henry. But the last 5 minutes or so have belonged to Brighton. We've had 19 minutes here at the GTEC Community Stadium, and it remains Brentford 0, Brighton 0. And if you think I couldn't remember the name of the sponsor there for a few seconds, you'll be absolutely correct. Here's Webster on the ball. It's the Brentford Community Stadium. Come on. Here's Caicedo with the ball inside the centre circle for Brighton. Picked up by Gross. Fed Estepinian again just outside the penalty area. Back to Trossard. Crosses in left-footed over the head of Welbeck. Solly March will catch up with it. It's all Brighton at the moment. March right on the edge of the penalty area, has Veltman for company, but instead goes back to Webster. Fed square to Moises Caicedo. Lofted in towards Estepinian, who's made a really good run. Controls by the dead ball line, trying to pull it back to Trossard. He did everything right but the final pass. And Ayer rather anxiously clear, but it's chested down confidently by Dunk. And here come Brighton again. Alexis McAllister feeds Solly March, spinning right in the centre of the Brentford half of the field. Feeding Pascal Gross to his left. Gross checks onto his right foot, goes for goal himself rather ambitiously, comes out to Caicedo, who drives it, and it's tipped over very well indeed by David Raya. Corner kick to Brighton, who are well on top at the moment.
They are. What a save that was from David Raya. 30 yards out from Caicedo. He takes a touch, strikes it first time, maybe 25, and that is moving in the air as well. That's a wonderful save from Raya. They've been really on top the last 5 or 6 minutes, and I tell you what, if they'd have gone 1 up, they probably would have deserved it. Wonderful strike, and even better save.
But it is a corner kick. That's the consolation for Brighton. 20 minutes played, goalless here at Brentford. Corner which Solly March will swing in with his left foot towards the near post. It's attacked by Trossard. It's a chance for Veltman, and somehow Raya keeps it out again. Big opportunity there for Joel Veltman as the ball fell for him just 7 yards out, but he was denied by the keeper.
Yes, he was. Set piece is always so important, and Brentford not able to get it away. It's a decent touch, just gets half a yard. He's falling backwards, so he's not able to strike it properly, but he does get the shot in. David Raya, right place, right time.
Another Brighton corner. This time it'll be taken by the right-footed Gross. So it's going to be an outswinger on this occasion. Plenty going on inside the crowded penalty areas. Towards the head of Lewis Dunk, who keeps it alive. Turned away by Ethan Pinnock. Only as far as Moises Caicedo. Now Estepinian again with a cross from the left-hand side. Solly marches underneath it. So too is Ivan Toney helping out back there. And it's seized upon by Wisser, who can try to set up a Brentford counter-attack. He rather run into Rico Henry. They lost their way with that, and Mee has to go back to his goalkeeper to belt it long out to the left-hand side, up towards the halfway line, where Toney is pulled to the ground by Veltman, and a rather cheap free kick conceded to Brentford. They need it.
Not a foul for me. I think Ivan Toney just misjudged it and then stood still. Veltman tried to get towards the ball where it was coming down. Obviously there's a bit of contact there. Toney went down, won the free kick, but you're right, boy do they need it right now, because the last 10 minutes has been all Brighton.
You're listening to Brentford 0, Brighton 0 on Talksport with Now Sports. With Now Sports, you can stream all the Sky Sports action, including this match, live right now for $11.99. No contract, search Now Sports. Brentford coming forward after managing to soak up that Brighton pressure of the last 10 minutes. They have a throw in about 10 metres from the corner flag, and Jensen does have a long throw, just drying the ball on his red and white shirt before considering the options, and there are plenty of them because Aya and Pinnock have joined the crowd around the penalty spot. Throw-in's actually only about 5 paces from the corner flag, and Matthias Jensen is winding himself up for a long one. Here it comes. It's a rather loopy one towards the near post. Wasn't his best effort. Welbeck was able to clear it, but it's one back by Janelt, who crosses now into the penalty area where the big men are still forward, and an instant volley is a brilliant effort by Burmo, which strikes the crossbar. Solly March clears his lines. An instant angled volley, just an instinctive effort by Brian and Burmo, and it very nearly went in. Only the woodwork got in its way. Brilliant effort. Brighton on the counter-attack. Pinnock comes up and there's an aerial clash between him and Solly March. Both of them are down and need some treatment. What a shot that was.
That was a wonder strike, it really was. The ball was whipped in. There was a flick on to Mbeumo on the far post. He can't shoot there first time. It's come at him too quickly, but he has. It's a wonderful volley. And my goodness, it is dipping, but it's not quite dipping enough. Sanchez absolutely beaten. He can only look at it. Thomas Frank can't believe it either. Wonder strike, but it didn't quite go in.
Stoppage in play here. Brentford 0, Brighton 0. The latest odds are available from Ladbrokes. At this moment, you can get Brentford to win at 11-5. You can back Brighton to win at 13-10, or you can back the draw at 2-1. They don't know, do they? Those odds from Ladbrokes. Play at ladbrokes.com. You must be 18 or over. And do be aware of begambleaware.org, a website which offers advice on how best to manage and indeed enjoy your gambling. The play is stopped because both players are requiring some head treatment. And if you were a boxing judge, and I'm not ever going to cast you in that role, round by round, you might have this quite even at the moment, might you?
Do you know what, Clive? I was just about to use that analogy of we weren't quite sure how this game was going to go. We weren't quite sure which team was going to win. Brentford not quite on form but playing at home. Brighton probably the better side but playing away. And it has been like a boxing match. It really has. The first 10 minutes, punches galore from Brentford. The next 10 minutes, all from Brighton. Brentford go back down the other end, and I have to say, this is one of the best 0-0s I've seen for a long time.
It's 25 minutes old. It's live on Talksport. It is Brentford 0, Brighton 0. And Brighton have a free kick in an attacking position, which Pascal Gross will take. It's about 20 metres outside the penalty area. All the big men are forward, and he's curled it far too close to David Raya, who makes an easy catch. Catalan, who came to England 10 years ago, came to Brentford 3 years ago, still only 27, David Raya. Rob Sanchez at the other end's not 25 till next month, so they are not only in the Spanish squad, but maybe the future for Spain going forward. Handball given against Trossard, who charges down a Jensen pass, but play quickly in motion again, and Jensen on the ball for Brentford, almost on the centre spot. Going back to Pinnock now, to Aya on the right-hand side, carrying the ball forward but misplacing his pass. It's cut out by Caicedo, but won back in turn by Brentford in the shape of Frank Onyeka, and he wins a free kick. I'll go through the lineups in a moment. Now they have settled down, and we've got an idea exactly how both are matching up, and they are matching up essentially both 4-3-3. But Brentford have a free kick just inside the Brighton half of the field, which Jensen takes short to Pinnock, gets it back Jensen out to Mbeumo on the right hand side, and a bit of a tangle with Ayer, who's trying to support him and got in his way, but Mbeumo with a fine piece of individual skill has found a way out and into the penalty area for Onyeka, and Toney is there, and it's a brilliant goal for Brentford, scored by Ivan Toney. A landmark goal, 50 up, Brentford's talisman these last 2 years. Has any club ever spent £10 million better than Brentford did on him? And on the occasion of his 100th appearance for Brentford, his 50th league goal for the club, it flicks impudently into the corner of the net. They worked that so well.
What a signing he has been, and yet again in the right place at the right time. And yes, it was from a free kick on around their halfway line. There's a little bit of battle as to who was going to get the ball. Once the ball was slipped in, you can see that I think it's Adam Webster is keeping them onside, but the movement of Ivan Toney there, fantastic play, you have to say, first of all from Brian Mbeumo. He just slips in Onyeka, and the flick from Ivan Toney, first of all the movement to come back there to then go in towards the near post. He beats Adam Webster to the ball, but it's still a little bit behind him, and he has to flick it, almost Cruyff style.
It's naughty. It's a naughty goal. It's a dirty goal. You shouldn't be showing skills like that under pressure from a big defender by Adam Webster. Just stepping over it and then using your back heel to guide the ball inside the post. You don't forget attacking players who score that kind of goal against you. A brilliant, brilliant goal from a player who served his time in the lower leagues, but he's a big league player now, a World Cup candidate, a one-off. He's Ivan Toney, and he's given Brentford the lead here. Now, can Brighton respond? It was a dirty goal, wasn't it, Scott?
Well, you're more down with the kids than I am, Clive. I'll leave that word to you. Naughty, but very, very nice.
Webster, forward to Veltman, up to the halfway line, over, and support from Solly March. Plays it back to McAllister midway through the Brentford half. Can Brighton settle and refine the rhythm that was threatening the Brentford goal just 5 or 10 minutes ago? Caicedo, square to Dunk. I mean, that fourth goal they scored here against Manchester United was an absolute masterpiece of counter-attacking, but there was a slickness and a fluency about the build-up to that goal, and it got the finish it deserved. But here's Trossard, square, McAllister into the edge of the penalty area. Gross can't control it. Mead clears his lines, and Toney wins it in the air and takes Brighton on his own, to be nudged to the ground there by Webster. Referee unimpressed. Out to this right-hand side, and Solly March, midway through the Brentford half, cutting in field. Plays it square now to Caicedo, right in the half of the Brentford half. Brighton have had a lot of the ball since the goal. Gross now wide on the right-hand side, crossed into the box, way over the head of Welbeck. Cleared by Mbeumo helping out there at the back. Toney can't win it in the air, and Brighton are back on the ball with Lewis Dunk. Now Moises Caicedo, McAllister, Caicedo again, still 20 metres outside the penalty area. Welbeck with his back to goal. Trossard, it's back to Caicedo once more, all the way back to the centre circle, and Adam Webster. Brighton finding it difficult to cut through the Brentford cover, but now Welbeck and Trossard combine, and here comes Estepinian on the break, and his cross is turned behind for a corner kick by Christopher Ayer. Corner to Brighton, better from Brighton.
Absolutely, it's the reaction you want, isn't it? Okay, the punch on the nose has come from Brentford. How do you react now, Brighton? And to be fair, they've reacted very much on the front foot.
54 goals for Brentford, Ivan Toney. How many of those 54 scored inside the box? Just the 52. He's actually scored a couple from out range against Leeds here last month, and they're the only two in all the goals that he scored for the club. Terrific. Corner kick now to Brighton, in towards the near post, headed away very well by Janel. Brighton is still on the ball, and Gross can cross again, and it's really good goalkeeping by Ryan. Made that his on the edge of the very crowded 6-yard box. Brentford trying to break. There was a little shirt tug there, but Trossard's on the ball for Brighton. He's inside the penalty area and he fires it over from the angle. It is a corner kick. I just wonder, even if he'd fired it in there, whether the play might have been called back by VAR because there was a shirt pull in the build-up.
Well, they would have had a look at it. I'm not sure it actually was a foul. The ball's played out. Yeah, maybe there was a slight tug, but it's not enough, Clive. And that's a great bit of skill from Trossard. He leaves the defender, Ethan Pinnock, on the floor. And in the end, they recovered well with the rest of the defence, just getting that deflection from the corner.
Brentford have the lead, but Brighton have a corner kick. Gross in towards the near post again. Welbeck's there, and that just bounced behind for a goal kick. It wasn't a situation that Brentford particularly had under control.
And the ball comes in. It's a great cross. Is it Lewis Dunk who got the touch?
Welbeck was climbing at the near post close to the ball. Yeah, I think Dunk came in behind him.
His back there, and dangerous set pieces. Just looking at the Zerbi's, still looking pretty reasonably calm, but he'll know exactly what the Premier League is all about. Brentford, small team, not really heard much of them, about them. You have now.
What he probably won't know is that Brentford have won all 3 games in which they have scored the first goal so far this season, and won them well actually. And since their promotion to the Premier League last year, Brentford are actually unbeaten in 13 games in which they've scored the first goal. It's a run of 22 league games going back to their championship days in February of last year. But Brighton did have a good record when conceding first last season. Came from behind to beat Leicester in Graham Potter's last game in charge last month, and this match is far from settled by that excellent opening goal scored by Ivan Toney, his 50th league goal for Brentford. They're on the attack again, and Jensen has the towel in his hands again and is threatening to take a long throw. His last one wasn't very long, if the truth's told. Let's see if he can do better this time. Interestingly, Rob Sanchez is on the edge of his 6-yard box waiting to come for the ball. It's fed in to Onyeka and back out to Jensen, who can now cross it right-footed, and his cross is a little bit long, but taking no chances. Estepinian turns it behind, and Brentford have a corner kick on the left-hand side, and they have plenty of vocal encouragement at the moment. Brian Mbeumo has placed it on the quadrant. The big man who came forward for the long throw, or the longish throw, stayed forward for this corner kick. Jensen is offering his services to Mbeumo down by the flag. Brentford corner it's going to be. He's going to leave it for Mbeumo to take, and it's taken very badly. He sliced it actually behind. It's gone straight out for a goal kick. That's not how they rehearsed it.
No, and it's such a waste, isn't it, when you got the likes of Aya and Ben Mee and Ethan Pinnock, and of course Brighton have got height in their defence, but set pieces with a proper ball coming in, with people attacking it, is going to be very difficult in both sides here. So that was an absolute waste.
Brentford 1, Brighton 0. We're listening to the game on Talksport with Car Finance 24/7. Search Car Finance 24/7 today. Brighton have the ball with Moises Caicedo on the edge of the centre circle. That impudently taken goal by Ivan Toney is the difference here. Brighton have the ball with their skipper Lewis Dunk on the halfway line. Square again to Webster. Fired forward towards Gross. Instead, the ball loops up and Caicedo heads it down. Veltman lobs it forward. Mee clears it long down the field. Webster is there again. McAllister back to Dunk. So let me quickly run through those teams. It is 4-3-3 for Brighton. Sanchez in goal. Veltman at right back. Estepinian at left back. Webster and Dunk between them, and then McAllister and Caicedo at the heart of the midfield. Trossard from the left, March from the right, and Gross trying to get up alongside Danny Welbeck whenever he can. On the board is McAllister, fed square to Webster, midway through the Brentford half, but all 10 red and white striped shirts are between him and his target. Raya in goal for the home team. Raya playing at right back, Pinnock and Mee at the heart of the defence, Henry at left back, and then that midfield three is Onyeka, Janelt and Jensen. There's another break into the box here by Estupiñán, and it was lost that time by Tony, but the flag is up, and the Brentford front three, just to complete the lineups, they have Tony down the middle, Wissa on the left, and Mbeumo on the right.
He was offside, Estupiñán, but he's making those runs constantly, and it's so dangerous because it is actually Wissa or Mbeumo who's kind of picking him up, and Aya's coming into midfield. There's a space then in behind, and Estupiñán is trying to get in behind that space, and if he times his run just that little bit better, he's not actually through on goal, but he is in behind the defence, and therefore he can just whip the ball across for one of the strikers or attacking midfielders to put it in first time.
Brighton enjoying another little spell of possession. Estupiñán square to McAllister, just inside the Brentford half of the field. 1-0 Brentford lead. Caicedo picked up now by Gross coming forward. Out to Solly March on the right touchline. Gross has gone on and got into the dead ball line here. Pulls the cross back, but it's turned away by Onyeka, who's made a good return to the starting 11. His first start since February, only his second start since the start of the year for Frank Onyeka. Given away by me rather perilously, but Brentford survived that as Janelt wins it for Jensen, and Henry goes long down the field for Tony to chase. It's chested down by Webster, just trying to take the heat out of the situation, but he's conceded a very unnecessary throw-in to Brentford. It's midway through the Brighton half on the Brentford left, and Rico Henry's come forward to take it. And everybody just taking a breather. There's been a real tempo about this game so far. Brentford started the better, Brighton responded. Tony was being held there by Veltman and responded, and the referee's actually penalised Ivan Toney. There was a little bit of wrestling going on off the ball, and the referee has found in Brighton's favour there, and Tony feeling a bit hard done by.
I think he's saying he just went to sort of did the stamping motion, and as if Veltman tried to stamp on him. I haven't yet seen a replay on it. He's still speaking to the referee. He's not happy at all. And we've just seen the replay now as Rico Henry gets the ball in his hands. He's thrown it. Listen, there's no stamping there. If he has trodden on his toe, it was accidental.
Nothing that Tony hasn't done to a centre-back himself. Aya coming forward with a bold run down the right-hand side, and Mbeumo picks it up, feeds it into Onyeka. Surge from him now into Brighton territory. Does well to resist a couple of challenges and retain possession. Aya into the edge of the penalty area. Tony is there trying to flick it on towards Jensen, hooked away by Adam Webster. One back by Janelt. Now Henry with a high ball looping into the edge of the penalty area. Goalkeeper's come to claim it, and goalkeeper knew what he was doing. Grabs it, Rob Sanchez, settle things down and bowls it out to Estupiñán. Brentford 1, Brighton 0. Ivan Toney's 7th goal of the season. You know, he's played over 260 league games outside the top flight. He's truly earned this chance, and indeed earned his England call-up at 26. And he is capable of the brilliant. He scored a wonderful free kick against Leeds United here last month, and then a 25-yard lob in that hat-trick. And he is more than a big bruising centre-forward, an awful lot more. Welbeck on the ball for Brighton. Scott Minto.
He's earned the right to get on the plane to Qatar, in my opinion. I'm really disappointed he didn't get minutes on the pitch for England for us just to see. You know, the training camp, we don't know how he's going to be, but you need him in an England shirt. But what he's doing at club level, what he gives in both boxes, the way he moves, his movement, his finishing, and the way he takes the penalty, Clive. Very, very important.
One step and one hit, and usually one goal. David Raya has the ball for Brentford, and with 5 minutes of the half to go, they'll just be starting to think about making sure they take this lead into the break. Tony trying to protect the ball from the long clearance, and we have seen Raya go long a lot more tonight. Brighton have still tried to play the ball through the thirds, but Brentford, and why wouldn't they with Tony as a target, tended to play the longer ball. Estupiñán's back on the ball for Brentford. Down the left-hand side to Trossard. Those two are combining brilliantly. Estupiñán now edge of the penalty area. Played in. Solly March with a big chance. Good block. Well worked again March had time to steady himself there and on his favourite left foot volley it goalwards, but it was blocked almost immediately after he hit it. But it was Estepinian who made inroads down the Brentford right.
It certainly was, but what a block this is by Ben Mee. Estepinian gets into the byline, cuts the ball back, and he's on his left foot, Solly March, right in front of goal. He keeps it down, but what a block that is. Wonderful, right on half-time, and you're right, Brentford want to go in now, game management, get into half-time, 1-0 up. Everyone sit down, everyone relax a little bit. It's been a really good first half. 1-1 changes the complexion and the psychology of the whole of the game.
And Solly March had a big chance to make it 1-1. Terrific stop there by Ben Mee in front of his goalkeeper. That goalkeeper, Raya, goes long down the field where Webster heads forward for Brighton. Hooked on by March up to the halfway line. Mee is there again. March wins an aerial duel with Henry, who then manages to force it forward himself. Webster and Dunk trying to sort it out. McAllister a little bit too cool there, and they've lost possession, and Brentford have an opportunity with them. Burmo just outside the Brighton penalty area, attacking, running past one challenge but not a second. McAllister managed to recover and atone for his error and win the ball back, and it goes early forward by Caicedo, one down that left-hand side for Trossard to chase, but some good cover from Ethan Pinnock. Good to see him restored to the Brentford team. Made his first appearance for 6 months last weekend and looked a little rusty towards the end, maybe a little weary, made a couple of errors which cost goals, but he is such an important pillar of that defence and has been for the last 3 seasons. Forward comes Rico Henry for Brentford, up to the halfway line, chased by Caicedo. Referee gives the throw in, and then Thomas Frank tries to grab the ball and Veltman grabs it off him, and everybody's getting excited, and the two managers are squaring up here, and now some of their support staff are involved, and De Zerbi is pointing at Frank rather accusingly. There's a couple of rather hefty security men in between them, thankfully, but it's all got a bit silly on the touchline.
A little bit silly. We kind of like this though, Clive, don't we? I know you don't, but I do.
I'm a pacifist.
I don't really know where it came from, because it was a foul. One manager thought it wasn't, one it was, but why let it escalate towards this? De Zerbi, we know. We heard Leandro Trossard saying about the big difference between him and Potter is actually the personality of the person, not just what he's trying to do in terms of tactics. And he got involved in something which, do you know what? Knowing the character that he is, I'm not surprised he did. I'm actually surprised of Thomas Frank for getting involved. Really didn't need to in that situation, and now both managers getting a yellow card.
Yellow card apiece. And a handshake. Oh, they're friends after all. They still do a lot of chatting. I'm not sure either is exactly back down, but we've had a handshake between Thomas Frank and Roberto De Zerbi, and each of them are on a warning now. And Graham Scott, the fourth official down there, has got his hands full on that touchline. Now, how does the man in the middle restart after all that? Well, it's going to be a free kick to Brentford. The added time board is going up in just a second, and it's going to be a few after that. Well, 2 minutes is what it's going to be. I think that skirmish went on for about 3, but nonetheless.
Just seeing a little wry smile from Thomas Frank there, and actually on the replay he didn't quite get as involved. He was very much in control of the situation, and so he should be right on half-time, 1-0 up.
On the ball for Brentford is Wissa, midway through the Brighton half of the field. Good plucky work behind the ball from Solly March, and now there's a little confrontation between Veltman and Jensen, and a yellow card is shown to Matthias Jensen. I think the referee needs to get this lot in the dressing rooms just to calm down. It's been a game played in really good spirit so far until the last couple of minutes.
No, but Michael Salisbury, the referee, I think has done really well. It has heated up a little bit, and I think he's dealt with it well. Dealt well with both managers, giving them a yellow card. And I think that was really silly as well from Jensen, because he's got a yellow card where he doesn't need to, and now in the second half, one mistimed tackle, suddenly they're down to 10 men. If you need to make a yellow card, then do it in a situation where you could be conceding, not in a stupid situation like that.
Still a lot of chatting going on the touchline. The managers can do their talking inside the dressing rooms in just a moment. It's Thomas Frank's 200th game in charge. He celebrates 4 years in charge this coming Sunday. Celebrated his 49th birthday last Sunday. Wouldn't have been too many party poppers after that 5-1 defeat at Newcastle, his heaviest in those 4 years. But he'll be happy enough if the scoreline remains the same going into the break, because Brentford lead by 1-0, and they're coming forward here with a Burmo is levered to the ground by Caicedo, and now there's another yellow card up, this time for Moises Caicedo. One yellow card apiece on the field, one yellow card apiece off the field.
Yeah, look, it's a foul. I don't think that's a yellow card. I'm just giving the compliments to Michael Salisbury there, and in control of the situation. Maybe he does need to get into the referee's dressing room, have a cup of tea, half an orange, and calm himself down.
It's only his 8th game as a Premier League referee. His dad Graham only hung up his whistle last year. The Salisburys are a family of blowers. Free kick to Brentford, right in the heart of the Brighton half. We're on borrowed time now at the end of this first half. Matthias Jensen is going to take it, lofted in high towards the head of Ben Mee. It's turned away though by Veltman, but attack's kept alive, and Henry with a deep cross, and Burmo with a header, and it's a pretty comfortable save for Rob Sanchez. Promising half two. Really enjoyed that. Just the one goal. It was a terrific goal, both in its conception, creation, and particularly in its execution, because Ivan Toney almost backheeled it in to the goal. It really was a classy and cheeky finish. Brighton have had some big moments in the game, 1 or 2 little spells of 10 minutes or so when they've been much the better team in the game. But Brentford have always managed to find a block at the key moment and keep them out. And at half-time here, live on Talksport, it is Brentford 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. Well, we spent quite a lot of the first half telling you how good Purvis Estepinian has been on the Brighton left-hand side. He's just been substituted. But I really like the guy that's coming on in his place, Kaoru Mitoma, Japanese international, and I happen to be commentating on Japan's first game of the World Cup final, so I've been studying some tapes of Japan's recent matches, and he has really caught the eye. This is 7 of the last 8 Premier League games in which he's come on for Brighton, and he's made a real impact in more than one of them. It was from his cross that Leandro Trossard scored the late equaliser at Anfield. He came on as a left wing back against Tottenham Hotspur last weekend, but got forward an awful lot. But he's going to start here from the right hand side of the Brighton attack in this second half. Solly March, who is naturally left footed, has switched over to the left hand side. Scott Minto is alongside me. It's a bold move. Mitoma's a winger.
It is, and I really liked Estepinian, the runs that he made. Maybe the final ball wasn't always of the highest quality, but the runs he made, only one of those need to be, in behind and playing the ball for Danny Welbeck or whoever else to come on. So, slightly surprised, I have to say. Mitoma, we know, is a very, very good player, and Solly March is an incredibly versatile player, isn't he? From right wing to left back again.
Mitoma's first touch plays the ball to Veltman. Back out to Mitoma on the right hand side. Just stroking it back to Webster, and now square to Dunk, and March in this new position on the left hand side, feet it forward to Welbeck, who's able to turn. Gross, who's the closest to Welbeck in this Brighton formation, played back to Caicedo. Now Veltman supporting edge of the penalty area in towards Welbeck. Mee was first to it, hit first time by McAllister, out as far as Mitoma. Back on the board is Joel Veltman, still just on the fringes of the Brentford penalty area. Brentford leading by a 0-0. Mitoma into the edge of the box and Caicedo, but Mee chests it down and clears. Brighton win it back. Jan Elt is down, having caught a late challenge. He's now back on his feet, and the referee has stopped play. There's another Brentford player down and in need of some treatment. It's been a bruising sort of a game. It just boiled over a little bit in the closing moments of the first half, but it's been playing in the right mood so far. But some fabulous wholehearted challenges.
Clive, it's had absolutely everything apart from lots of goals. I mean, it's had so many really good chances, as you mentioned, about 4 or 5 really good chances where either last-ditch defending, great goalkeeping, the crossbar or the post, has kept it out. You know, it's wholeheartedness in terms of the tackles going in. There's some really good play, passing, some good crossing. It's had absolutely everything, and even managers arguing with each other. I quite like that. You don't?
I don't mind managers arguing with themselves as long as it doesn't start to involve 20 people, because if that starts to happen on Sunday League touchlines, then the game's gone. Anyway, we move on because Matthias Jensen has not moved on. He's the one who picked up the most bruising of that exchange of challenges. Joel Veltman rather stood in his foot, but he has just now been lifted to his feet by the Brentford medical team. I don't think it was a foul as such. I think play is going to restart with a throw-in, maybe even a bounce ball. But Jensen, as is the statutory requirement, will go off the field in order to immediately come back onto the field. And Brentford restart with a bounce ball, and Mee plays it back to Raya. Brentford 1, Brighton 0. Goal by Ivan Toney just before half-time. And Burmo with a headed flick on, but he's unable to connect with Onyeka running beyond him. And it's a throw-in to Brighton. Dunk plays it back to Rob Sanchez. And he drills one down the centre of the field. And Welbeck cottons onto it on the halfway line, controls it and plays it infield to Pascal Gross, who's been operating really as a number 10 just behind Welbeck in this 4-2-3-1 Brighton setup. Caicedo square to McAllister midway through the Brentford half of the field. Challenge comes in and concedes another throw-in to Brighton and Hove Albion, which Solly March will take. He was in and out the team really last season, March, but he's been a fixture again this season under Potter and De Zerbi, and has been a fantastic servant, the one club man born down the Sussex coast in Eastbourne, a connection with the 2017 promotion team of Chris Hughton's Solly March. The Brentford line's cleared by Ayer, but Brighton have it back, and Webster plays it square to Veltman. Matoma now one-on-one with Henry, looking to take him on for pace on the outside. Matoma checks and comes back inside, and then takes Henry on again, tries to get down the dead ball line, looks to cross it, and a corner kick. He has one on the right-hand side for Brighton.
And you get the feeling that's going to be a really good battle in his second half, don't you? Matoma trying to use the pace and trickery. Rico Henry, superb defending. Just when it looked like Matoma got half a yard, Henry got back. And yes, there's a corner here for Brighton, but that's all the left-back can do.
Pascal Gross will take it. Webster and Dunk are forward from the back. Easily the two tallest Brighton players. There's a Brighton player gone down as Welbeck heads it goalwards and just squeezes that header over the crossbar. Raya doesn't have to intervene on this occasion, and it's a goal kick.
Yeah, I was slightly critical at half-time of Danny Welbeck, but there's nothing he could do there. He did really well to get ahead of about, 1, 2, 3 Brentford defenders. And actually, just looking at it again in the replay, and slow motion makes it look so much more false. But he was able to get that leap, and if he could have leapt an extra couple of inches and just headed the ball down on target, you get the feeling that Raya would have had no chance.
Brighton have not scored from a corner as yet this season. Challenged by Matoma on Wisser, held nothing back. He just Dodgem was there, he just bumped him to the ground, and he's conceded a free kick in quite a promising position for Brentford, who currently have two men down in needed treatment because Ivan Toney is also being lifted painfully to his feet. Matoma trying to help out defensively with a rather rash challenge, has conceded a free kick in a good position. Toney's not moving at all well. He's been back on his feet now for 5 or 10 seconds, but he's walking like I do at the moment, and that's not great. Just making his way into the penalty area where Brentford desperately need him for this free kick, which is about 10 paces outside the Brighton penalty area, over on the left-hand side. The bearded Brian and Burmo is standing over the ball.
He'll come alive as soon as that ball comes into the box.
He's recovered, has he, Tony, now? Yeah. And Burmo takes it. It's lofted in towards the head of Mee, and he just squeezes it wide of Rob Sanchez's right-hand post. It's a stooping header in the end.
Yeah, it's a good ball in. And again, you talk about set pieces. You look at both sides, and actually just the modern day footballer, there's so much more athletic, much more physical, taller.
A little too physical on that occasion. Danny Welbeck just seizing Jan Elt under the ball as the long clearance was played downfield by Sanchez.
Yeah, so much more sort of athletic than the footballer of 20, 30 years ago. And set pieces, therefore, the quality of the ball coming in, doesn't matter if you're up against a 6'4" person, if the ball comes in, you time your run right, someone who's even just a couple of inches smaller will win that header.
You know what it is, don't you? Tomato ketchup. No tomato ketchup. That's what's made the difference. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Foul on Caicedo midway inside his own half. It's just starting to simmer, this game, in terms of those physical contests that we were talking about, and the referee had a pretty free run for 40 minutes or so. Has got some officiating to do. Welbeck inside the Brentford penalty area has held it up well. Trossard with a cross. Mitoma arriving. Important header by Henry, helped out by Onyeka. Only as far as Veltman. Mitoma's back on the ball. Veltman once more, gets it back from McAllister. Veltman in a crossing position midway through the Brentford half. Instead, side puts it out to Mitoma on the touchline. He thinks about a run at Henry, instead retains possession. Brighton trying to retain their overall control over the flow of the game, and they've had that for the large parts. It's almost as if Brentford have played on the counter against them, and they've done so very effectively so far, because Brentford lead by 1-0. And Mitoma is attacking the edge of their penalty area again. Played in left-footed, and it's deflected behind, and that will be a corner kick. You are listening to Brentford 1, Brighton 0 on Talksport with Now Sports. With Now Sports, you can stream all the Sky Sports action, including this match, live right now for $11.99, no contract. Search Now Sports. 1-0 to Brentford, Brighton corner. Pascal Gross places the ball on the quadrant. Assesses the options, which include both Adam Webster and Lewis Dunk, who are forward. Taken by Gross, hooked in towards Dunk, well headed clear as far as McAllister. Plays it square to Caicedo. Deflected cross, looping into the penalty area. Defended well again, but Gross back across the face of goal, and well grabbed that time by David Raya. It was back to the wall defending that by Brentford. They did it very well indeed.
Yeah, but got to do better, Brighton, when they get half a yard, have a shot, and they didn't. They played out wide, the cross came in. Poor cross in the end for Brighton there, and David Raya, a simple catch, and they are going down like flies now.
Brian Mbeumo is in need of some treatment at the moment. It was a good header initially by Pinnock. He contested the ball in the air a couple of times there before his goalkeeper was able to grab it. And as I said a little earlier, during the first half, his return, particularly once he works his way through the gears and finds his full match fitness, will be really, really important. They're currently without Aaron Hickey, who's picked up an injury and wasn't available today, and Pontus Jansson from the defence, as well as Christian Norgard from just in front of the defence. Oh, and there's a terrible clearance there by Rob Sanchez. He's got away with it. He tried to pass it out, and he passed it straight to Ivan Toney. It was played with a certain amount of velocity, and it caught Toney a little by surprise, and he couldn't control it. But Sanchez, who was almost caught playing out in the latter stages against Tottenham last weekend, took a chance there. Forward come Brighton over the halfway line. Brentford lead by 1-0. Veltman in towards the edge of the penalty area. Gross tried to take it in his stride, and eventually the ball cannoned between him and Pinnock and behind for a goal kick. It was a good run by Gross, and he was unspotted initially. His first touch wasn't the best. Yeah, good run, and it was a really good pass as well, and the first touch should have been a lot better. We're just watching a replay now of down the other end of Robert Sanchez. You know, we talked about how the pressing is going to be really interesting for both sides. They cannot afford to give away a silly goal, a second goal to Brentford. If Brentford score the next goal, they will get this win. Oh, by the way, a fantastic pass from Raya has found Aya going forward and crossed into the penalty area. It might come here for Toney, who crashes in to Sanchez after he grabbed the ball. It was the most wonderful pass by the goalkeeper. He's been watching Edison, I think, and Aya crossed dangerously into the box, and Brentford almost got a goal from it.
Lewis Dunk's chesting it down towards his keeper. He can't be doing that. He's got to just head it away. He got lucky because Ivan Toney was just literally inches away from the ball.
They've just been a bit too cool for school on occasions tonight.
Yes.
Brighton, almost as if they want to take the sting out of the game and look classy as they do it, and they haven't had time to do that. But here's Trossard with a cross into the box. Matoma came into the edge of the 6-yard box and the cross bypassed him, and Rico Henry has been able to clear it. Up to Veltman on the halfway line. The body language of a team is important, and if you can look composed and controlled and start to run a game, it can have an impact on your opponents. But Brentford aren't the sort of side who will let you do that.
No, I mean, Roberto De Zerbi has already come out and said he's surprised at the technical quality of the two centre-halves, Duncan, Webster, and that's probably why he's gone to a back four here. You can get that extra attacking player in this 4-2-3-1 formation, but there's a time and a place, Clive.
They're on the attack, Brighton, though, with Trossard, edge of the penalty area. Brentford lead by a goal to nil. It's a terrible pass from Trossard, but it's been won back by Caicedo. Worcester taking a chance. Now Trossard once more, plays it square to McAllister, calmly on to Caicedo. Trossard again, edge of the penalty area, trying to get March in. It was a clever idea, but it was a difficult pass, a straight pass, difficult to execute, and it's gone behind for a Brentford goal kick.
No, but what we are seeing is Brighton very much on the front foot, controlling this game and territorially as well. I mean, we probably would have been offside there, Solly March, but they are on the front foot, and Brentford just need to be careful that not just go back and back and back and suddenly invite pressure. They need to keep the ball, even if they're not keeping the ball in terms of possession, they need to keep the ball away from their own goal, and Ivan Toney just needs to hold the ball up. This is where Brentford really need him, not necessarily to score the goal, although of course that would be good, but bring the ball down, relieve a bit of pressure for their defence, because at the moment it is Brighton on top.
The good news for Ivan Toney is he's no longer moving like me. Forward come Brentford down the right hand side with Mbeumo. Onyeka was bundled to the ground, but no free kick given. Throw in instead to Brighton. Dunk is on the ball again for Brighton, and they are comfortable in possession, both of them, but it's easy to be comfortable when you're not coming under immediate pressure, and they weren't on that occasion. Forward by Caicedo to Welbeck, who is under pressure. Forward by McAllister, on by Matoma. Nice idea, but Henry's back there to cut it out with some help on that left-hand side from Ivan Toney. Janel, forward to Onyeka. Ayer, up as far as the halfway line, down the right-hand touch line for a scurrying run from Mbeumo, who latches onto it and takes on March on the edge of the penalty area. Good work by Brian Mbeumo, and good recovery too by Solly March. It is a corner kick to Brentford, but that was excellent defending by March.
Yeah, really good play. Brian Mbeumo went short to go in behind. A good ball from Ayer, and then suddenly he's 1-on-1, and you would fancy him against Solly March, and it looked like he'd twisted him up and gone one side, gone the other. But Solly March, his powers of recovery, great defending there, it really was. But now, because Brentford have just done something over the last 10 minutes here, listen to the fans. Great atmosphere.
They won a corner kick on the right-hand side, and Mbeumo and Jensen discuss it. I think there's a feeling here Mbeumo has not quite been in his best so far this season. He looks like he's made a late bid to get into the World Cup finals. He made his Cameroon debut last month and showed up well. Jensen it is who takes this corner. It's driven into the near post. March heads it up in the air and across the face of goal. Cleared as far as Mbeumo. Kept alive by Pinnock. Back to Onyeka. Looking for Jensen on the right-hand side. Good control from him, but Trossard is back there covering and manages to halt his progress. It's a throw-in down by the corner flag.
Yeah, this is what Brentford need to do. They need to make sure they keep the ball in Brighton's half. They need to just pass the ball a little bit, take the sting out of the situation, the pressure off their defence, get the fans in behind them again. This is really good play just in the last couple of minutes from the home side.
Exclusively live on Talksport. You're listening to Brentford 1, Brighton 0 on Talksport with Car Finance 24/7. Search Car Finance 24/7 today. It is a throw-in to Brentford, right next to the corner flag that they're attacking on their right-hand side. Matthias Jensen is winding up a long one. This is a better one towards the near post, headed on by Pinnock. On down goes Toney inside the penalty area. Penalty given. Pinnock managed to head on the long throw. Toney tried to hold it up. They just couldn't resist trying to dispossess him, Brighton. Toney went down. It's a penalty to Brentford, and when it's a penalty to Brentford, it's usually a goal for Brentford.
It normally is, and he causes such problems, doesn't he? What is Veltman doing there? I mean, look, you're only 6 yards out, you're inside the box.
I'll tell you what, Tony is pulling Veltman's shirt as he goes down. Now, will the VAR think this is 6 of one and half dozen the other? Veltman had a bit of a swipe at Tony. It is a foul, but I just wonder whether Tony pulling on his shirt at the same time will somehow wipe that out. I'm not quite sure how they'll see that.
Clive, I'll be very surprised if this is turned around. That's what happens in the box. You grab each other's shirts. And then, but the fact that Veltman actually came round with his right foot, he came through Ivan Toney. I think with the holding of the shirts, it would have just been play on. That's what happens in the box.
Have you ever heard of Mike Dean? He's the VAR.
My goodness me, then maybe something might happen.
Well, it's still being discussed. Ivan Toney has the ball in his hand.
Look, in my point of view,
I think it's check over here, isn't it?
They're holding each other's shirt. That's what happens inside the box. As long as you're not pulling someone down or pulling someone across, that wasn't what happened. The moment that Veltman used his foot to try and kick around Ivan Toney, but get Toney instead, that's where Toney was clever, went down. It is a penalty.
Ivan Toney from the spot, 3 from 3 this season. He's gone left, right and centre. It's only going to be one pace run up. He is the coolest of penalty takers. He is one of the most successful of penalty takers. And here he goes against Sanchez and beats him. And Brentford lead by 2-0. It's Toney again. Toney from the spot. Does he ever miss? He has never missed for Brentford. 4 from 4 this season. 19 from 19 in Brentford colours. They haven't missed a penalty in game time for 3 years. You don't give penalties to Brentford.
Well, again, and it's a massive goal, and he's earned that himself. So he scored the first goal when you could arguably say it was a little bit against the run of play, and then he's won the penalty, stepped up, and as you say, Clive, he just doesn't miss. He's so cool. He waits for the keeper to go one way. I actually love these penalties. I know a lot of people don't. I'm sure a lot of managers don't. But if you have the bottle, if you have the composure to wait until the very last second, wait for the goalkeeper to go one way, and even if he doesn't, then you still pass it to the side, then it's almost the perfect penalty. You need absolute confidence, absolute composure. He has got it, and he is the difference tonight here. Brentford haven't been the better side out of the two, but he has been the standout player in 2 key moments.
Brentford 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. Ivan Toney 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. McAllister forward to the edge of the penalty area and Trossard. On by Gross. Mitoma now stepping away from a challenge just outside the box. Played in by McAllister with a shot through a crowd, but David Raya saw enough of it to grab it. There's going to be another change, an interesting change, because we're going to see Deniz Undav, the German forward who scored a bagful of goals in Belgium last season but hasn't had too much of an opportunity to show what he can do for Brighton, but they need goals now, and they're going to turn to Undav to try to provide it. He's just stripped off his tracksuit top and is being ready and getting some final orders from De Zerbi's right-hand man. 2-0 to Brentford. Brentford victory, which would lift them into 8th place in the table if they were to see it through from here. Brentford 8th in the Premier League. Think about that 5 years ago. Veltman though for Brighton. Down the right hand side to Mitoma. Again confronted by Henry. Steps inside midway through the Brentford half. It's a clever ball into Welbeck inside the penalty area. Cross throws charged down absolutely brilliantly. It's Rico Henry, I think, who got across to divert it behind for a corner.
Well, I tell you what, we talk about Ivan Toney for England. What about Rico Henry? Maybe the World Cup has come just a little bit too early for him, but boy, he has been absolutely fantastic since he's been in the Premier League. Brilliant defending there.
Pascal Gross with a corner kick from the right hand side. Adam Lallana's going to come on too. Gross takes it in towards the heads. Really good header by me. Hit first time by McAllister into the crowd. And Brentford might be able to counter-attack here. They've got a possibility with Mbermo sprinting over the halfway line. He's only got Whistler up with him for now. Brighton have got a lot of men back, but he's on the edge of the penalty area, fired in low, and it's an easy take. for Rob Sanchez. Brighton actually got enough men back. It looked for a moment as if they might be outnumbered, but they weren't. Instead, they can come forward down the left-hand side now with Solly March. He's midway through the Brentford half of the field. 2-0 the home team lead. Brentford with 2 goals from Ivan Toney. March plays it back to McAllister. Now Mitoma, edge of the penalty area, curled in towards the head, and a fabulous save there as the header came in from Solly March, and somehow the goalkeeper kept it out. It was an extraordinary stop by Raya, because March looked certain to score.
Clive, that is unbelievable save. It's a great ball from Mitoma to the far post. March is pretty much 6 yards out. He heads it down, and David Raya just sticks out his left leg. It comes off his knee, but that is fantastic goalkeeping. This is a really crucial time for Brentford now. They need to see these next 10 minutes out, and then they can try and do the game management. At the moment, they're really under pressure. Brighton are on top. They cannot afford to concede.
It was a terrific save by Raya, but I'm going to be a real spoil sport. March has got to score. He's got to score with that headed chance.
Well, all you can do there is try and hit the target. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be really precise, you make sure it's away from the goalkeeper. But if it hadn't have been anywhere near the goal, it hadn't have been on target, you say you have to hit the target. He's hit the target. Raya's going one way, but he leaves his left leg in the position, which means he's able to save it. So it's a wonderful save. But yeah, a big moment for Brighton.
Gross and Trossard off, Lallana and Undav on. That is the headline news from the Brighton substitutions we've just seen. Lallana getting his first touch. Back to Caicedo, 15 metres outside the penalty area. Mitoma into the box. First chance for Undav on the turn. His shot is deflected, and it's gathered again by David Raya, who is such a dependable force for Brentford. Didn't have his best day up on Tyneside last weekend, but has been almost as much a part of this scoreline as Ivan Toney has for Brentford. It is Brentford 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. Undav has gone up front with Welbeck. Lallana operating just off them. March from the left and Mitoma from the right. It's a very attacking Brighton lineup now, as it has to be. Forward by Dunk. But it's a return down the Brighton left, where a challenge comes in from Dunk to Onyeka. Caicedo. Now Mitoma picking the ball up 20 metres inside the Brentford half. Veltman back to Mitoma again. McAllister offering himself, trying to prompt and probe from the centre of the midfield. Caicedo fed into Lallana. Well met though by Ayer, who got in a clean challenge, and the clearance is made, and it's chance for Brentford now to make a couple of changes. We're going to see Mads Roerslev, and we are going to see Shandon Baptiste. So they're the two substitutes coming on. Off comes Frank Onyeka, who's impressed tonight, and Johan Wissa also. So Onyeka and Wissa off, Baptiste and Roerslev on. Pause for Onyeka, Nigerian international, who did have a spell in the team this time last year, but really hasn't played an awful lot since the turn of the year, and he looks a bit weary now, but he's done well.
No, they're definitely substitutions to try and add a little bit of energy for Brentford. They've got that second goal. Brighton again, to be fair, been punched on the nose. They're reacting really well. And as I say, these next 10 or so minutes, very, very important. If Brighton can score, they are right back in this game.
McAllister's on the ball, still alongside Caicedo at the heart of the midfield. Veltman out to Mitoma on the right-hand side. Running at Henry, just outside the Brentford penalty area. Checking inside, but running into traffic. And Brentford have been able to retrieve possession. Roerslev trying to find a way out. It is Brentford 2, Brighton 0. The latest odds are available from Ladbrokes. Brentford are now 1-12 to win the game. Can still back Brighton to win at 40-1. The draw is still 10-1. Those odds are from Ladbrokes. Play at ladbrokes.com. You must be 18 or over, and begambleaware.org is the website. There should be an appendix to your gambling do take a look at it. McAllister's on the ball for Brighton, just inside the Brentford half of the field. Support from Veltman. Still Brighton having an awful lot of the ball, but Brentford have scored both of the goals. Ivan Toney has scored both of the goals. On by Dunk to Webster, midway through the Brentford half, into the edge of the penalty area, and Welbeck holds it up well, plays it out to Solly March on the left-hand side. He's beaten Roslev. Now he crosses towards the far post. Henry helps it on its way, and he's going to go out for a throw-in right by the corner flag. One that Matoma will leave for Veltman to take. The assistant referee just assuring that Veltman takes the throw-in from the correct spot. It actually went out to play right next to the corner flag. Feeds it into Undav, gets it back and plays it to Matoma, and now back to McAllister, who's 15 metres outside the penalty area. Webster has come forward now to keep the attack going. March on the left-hand side. Brentford have got everybody back behind the ball, and March plays a wayward pass, but it's miscontrolled on the edge of the penalty area by Jensen. McAllister into the edge of the box. Lallana, little rat-a-tat-tat passes on the edge of the Brentford penalty area, but the last of them wasn't accurate enough, and Brentford managed to get in amongst it and sort it out. But that's what Adam Lallana will bring. He'll keep the ball moving. We'll have the technician.
Absolutely, it's attack versus defence now, as Brentford just trying to hold on, not concede that goal, trying to keep themselves organised.
He's 34 now, Lallana, but he is an evergreen talent. He makes the ball do the work for him. Webster bursting forward, a wonderful surge from him. Matoma back to McAllister, 15 metres outside the penalty area. Welbeck again coming deep to show for the ball. Plays it square again to Matoma. Tried to cross it in, but it's charged down. Brentford have defended very, very stoutly, but Mbeumo has lost it here. Good challenge by Caicedo. Wundaf couldn't make the most of it, and Tony's chasing a hat-trick, but it's tidied up by Veltman, who heads it all the way back to Rob Sanchez in the Brighton goal. There's 16 minutes left to play. Brentford leading by 2-0. McAllister seeing an awful lot of the ball, right in the heart of the Brentford half of the field. Webster coming forward again. Once more, McAllister is on the ball. Now, Veltman 15 metres outside the penalty area, onto the right-hand side, not quite where March wanted it. In that League 2 game being played up on Merseyside, Tranmere Rovers now lead Crewe Alexandra by 3-0. That game kicked off 15 minutes earlier than this one, so time almost up there. Veltman, or Webster I should say, coming forward for Brighton, but again Brentford's shape and hunger without the ball holding out. A good challenge coming in from Baptiste this time, and Burmo clearing his lines and drawing a foul from Caicedo. They play with so much spirit. They play with other qualities tonight too, Brentford, but it has been a hugely spirited performance.
No, it has, and it started from the very beginning. In the first 10 minutes I thought they were superb, and then, as I say, Brighton came back into it. I do actually think, in terms of pure footballing terms, Brighton are the better side. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the game or even finish higher up in the table. But what Brentford have got, especially here at home, is a very hard-working, high-intensity side that will give it their absolute all. They've got a manager who can make changes in terms of systems as well as personnel, and they've got some guy up front called Ivan Toney, and boy can he stick the ball in the back of the net.
And Roberto De Zerbi is staring another defeat in the face here. It's only his third game in charge. Now, he faced Liverpool in the first and Spurs in the second. They visit Manchester City next weekend, and then they take on Chelsea and Graham Potter the week after. It's been a nice, quiet start, but it's not been a particularly rewarding start thus far. Particularly challenging because Potter did take 5 of his staff with him, so there's been little continuity. McAllister has the ball just on the edge of the penalty area, and now March getting to the dead ball line and crossing to the far side, where Matoma controls the ball just inside the Brentford half of the field. Caicedo keeping the attack alive. Webster now 15 metres outside the penalty area, going square to McAllister. Veltman thinking about a shot. Instead it's March just outside the penalty area. This attack has been hemming Brentford in. The applause you can hear ringing round this stadium are in memory of Howard Billings, gentleman who worked on the turnstiles at Griffin Park for 20 years and more, and is sadly passed in the last week or so. And now, as play stops and Brentford can take a bit of a breather, everybody inside the G-Tech gets to their feet and applauds a very popular and well-known member of the travelling support, Billy the Fish. Used to wear shorts in sub-zero temperatures, I'm told. Lovely, lovely man. And getting a lovely send-off there from his friends here in West London.
But even moments like that, Clive, it shows how they're all as one here. You know, the fans, a lot of fans around us were standing up, giving him a standing ovation. It just feels like this is a club that is together. It's as one, both on and off the pitch, and that's so important when you're playing in top-flight football.
Brighton coming forward, trailing by 2-0. Mitoma, I've given him the big build-up with his introduction at half-time. He hasn't really made a big impact on the game as yet. He has won a corner with a pacey run down the left-hand side. A couple more Brentford substitutes imminent, Josh Da Silva and Sergi Canos, as Solly March prepares to take the corner for Brentford, Brighton, from their left-hand side. 2-0 Brentford lead. Got that bit right. March with the corner. And towards the end of the 6-yard box, and who's back there? Ivan Toney to clear his lines. Comes out as far as Mitoma, who miscontrols, and Burmo wins it. Tries to get Toney veering forward down the right-hand side, but it's won back by March. And Undav's on the ball, just outside the penalty area for Brighton. And now Mitoma plays it square. And Caicedo in a shooting position. And McAllister goes for a goal himself. It was a side-footed effort, not a lot of pace on it. And it was a pretty comfortable save for David Raya, who's been excellent.
No, they're getting frustrated, Brighton, and you can understand why, because it's pass. They're going from one side to the other. But where Brentford are being very, very clever is they're not being pushed to one side, and therefore there's no spaces. Everyone from defence to midfield to even the attackers are staying within the lines of almost in between, not just within the 18-yard box, but the 6-yard box.
Right, they've not lost consecutive league games since March. So, applause for Brian and Burmo as he makes way for Sergi Canos. Josh Da Silva, who is left out of the starting 11 today, will take the place of Matthias Jensen for these closing stages. The third Brentford transfer window freshening up the energy levels. And Da Silva and Canos come on. The Spanish right wing back, I suppose he is, hasn't played at all this season. He's been recovering from a hamstring injury, but he's been here nearly 6 years now. He's a big part of the Brentford story, and it's good to see him back out there in the red and white stripes. Free kick to Brighton, about 20 metres outside their own penalty area. Brentford leading by 2-0. Ivan Toney with a delicious first half finish to round off an excellent sweeping move, and then a penalty in the second half that he won himself and dispatched with his usual confidence. He brings a kind of aura with him when he walks forward to the spot. You just don't think he's going to miss, and I rather believe that probably the opposing goalkeeper doesn't think he's going to miss either. It just doesn't give the keeper any time to make his mind up, really. It's one pace. You kind of got to go before he kicks it, or before he even threatens to kick it. And he found the corner again, and Brentford lead by 2-0. But Welbeck's on the ball for Brighton. Veltman out to March. He and Mitoma have now swapped flanks permanently. March playing from the right, Mitoma from the left. Dunk has the ball, and McAllister, Caicedo. We've seen these triangles throughout the game, but just haven't found the sufficient penetration. March, though, has played it into Welbeck, making a run down the right-hand side. Back to Solly March again. Hesitates, looks up, assesses the option. Lallana offers him a possibility. Veltman crosses into the box. Welbeck tries to bring it down, but there is Ethan Pinnock to to clear his lines. As soon as Brentford are actually asked a question, as soon as Brighton commit themselves with a final pass or a cross into the box, Brentford seem to find a reply to it.
You know, Clive, there's an art in defending that actually seems to have gone out the window a little bit, not quite as fashionable as it used to be, but when you're 1-0 up, 2-0 up, you know, and you got it up against a team. Let me tell you now, Brighton are not playing badly. They are a very, very good team, playing with good, slick passing football. But Brentford are able to put themselves and organise themselves into a situation where Brighton just cannot break them down. They're going from side to side, they're passing, they're trying to go into Danny Welbeck. They're not getting anywhere where they need to, and that's because Brentford know exactly what they're supposed to do defensively.
They're being stretched again by Solly March on the Brighton right, edge of the penalty area, fed into Lallana, hit by March, charged down again immediately. Welbeck can't control it, and it's cleared down the field by Roslev. And Brighton must start all over again from the halfway line. Forward comes Webster skillfully into Welbeck, checks inside, trying to find some space. There just isn't any. Janelt makes sure of that, and Canos then buys a free kick and buys some more time for Brentford. Brighton are just banging their head against the wall. Full time in that League 2 game at Prenton Park. Tranmere Rovers 3, Pure Alexandra 0. It's been, I think, probably a really reassuring night for Thomas Frank, because clearly his team were too open at Newcastle last weekend. Okay, they made some errors, but Newcastle were worthy winners, emphatic winners, and it's just not like Brentford to concede goals like that.
No, it's not. You know, they made individual mistakes, but as you rightly mentioned, and I've mentioned before as well, to put Jensen as that holding midfielder hit, that's not what he's about. I think Janelt sitting there gives them much more. Makes them much more solid as a team defensively. So, and again, coming here at home in front of the home fans, everything's just perfectly set up, and if they are going to survive, they do need to be winning games like this and be picking up points.
I read today on the Brentford website that Christian Norgard is back on the grass, it said, and I think that probably means he's training again.
Do you know what? He's been a massive miss. He is one of their very best players, right up there with Ivan Toney. Not quite the sexy in terms of scoring the goals, but as important.
Here come Brighton again, though. It's March from the right-hand side, fed back to McAllister just outside the box, came off March. A good reaction in there, turned out of harm's way by Christopher Ayer, and he's now gone down and needed some treatment. There's a couple of Brentford players down. Brighton aren't enjoying this, the number of Brentford players who are requiring treatment. If you joined us during the second half, Thomas Frank and Roberto Di Serbi had a little encounter just before half-time. There's not much eye contact between the pair of them now. They did shake hands after they'd been eyeballing each other in a bit of a melee on the touchline just before half-time, but they cut very different figures now. De Zerbi looking very irritated and restless. It just hasn't been the kind of night where his team have been able to make their superior possession and territorial advantage pay. They have a corner though, and it's taken by March, and it's into the near post, and it's punched away by Raya. Only as far as Moises Caicedo. Back into the mix, headed on by Veltman, and another fabulous save. Dunk's header this time, turned round by David Raya. He has been exceptional tonight, the Brentford goalkeeper, and still Brighton can't score.
Do you know what, Clive? Ivan Toney will get man of the match because he scored 2 goals. I actually would give it to David Raya. I think he's kept more than 2 goals out of his own goal. And it's offside, so that's I think it wouldn't have counted anyway. But David Raya doesn't know about that. The saves he has made this evening, wow, absolutely incredible. He would be my man of the match.
Well, he's now able to take some time out of the game because the flag did go up against Lewis Dunk, and Raya will take the goal kick. One last change for Brentford. We'll see Saman Ghoddos come on in place of the excellent Rico Henry. One or two Brentford players have really stood up and been counted this season. There have been some good performances around the team. Centre-backs have been good. Henry's been good. Janelt has provided a little more security in midfield, but the goalkeeper and the centre forward, they have been absolutely outstanding. And Brentford now are on the verge of seeing this one out. 3 more minutes. They had some famous wins here last season against Arsenal and West Ham United. They've had 2 thumping wins against Manchester United and Leeds United this season. Their only 2 Premier League wins of this season to date. They're coming forward again with an opportunity for Tony. It's hit instead by Roslev, and Tony is there, and he has to be denied by a goal line clearance in the end from Lewis Dunk. It was bouncing, bobbling towards the line, and Dunk was able to clear it pretty comfortably, but it would have been Tony's goal if he'd missed it. Unda for Brighton, trying to counter for them. McAllister midway through the Brentford half of the field. 2-0 Brentford lead with just over 2 minutes left to play. On the ball, Solly March just outside the Brentford penalty area. Now Veltman trying to get in and provide a cross, but the challenge is a good one from Godos, and it is a goal kick for Brentford. Nearly there.
It's been brilliant from Brentford, it really has. And again, the organisation skills. It's been attack versus defence since 2-0. Brighton have been passing the ball really, really well, but they're just not able to open them up at all, because they're staying in exactly their positions, letting the ball do the work. I'm telling you, I'm not surprised players have gone down with cramp from Brentford, because the amount of running they've been doing is just nothing short of sensational. But they're running on empty at the moment, but the atmosphere that the fans are creating for them, you can't help but just carry on running. But keep your positions, and that's exactly what they've been doing.
There's a VAR review at the moment for a possible handball against a Brentford player inside the penalty area, so the possibility of a Brighton penalty. The ball was bouncing about there and ricocheting off various players. There's a coming together on the edge of the penalty area between Veltman and Godos. I don't think that's what was being checked, because handball is what we're being told was the check, but
for Lewis Dunk,
the check is over.
Yeah, Brentford went down the other end, and there was a check about a possible handball.
It was, I'd say, I beg your pardon, it was a check for a Brentford penalty, wasn't it?
Yep.
Here's Tony inside the penalty area, still on a hat-trick, remember. Webster's there. Yeah, there was rather innocuous Brentford attack, which actually finished up with that effort from Tony being cleared off the line by Dunk, and it was at that end they were looking at it. Now Canos has gone down, he's frustrated Veltman, he's holding his face. I'm not quite sure whether there was any really menacing contact on Sergi Canos, or whether he's just trying to milk this and see things out. Brighton are very, very unhappy about it. We're going to get 6 extra minutes for this to get to really fever pitch. 6 added minutes have been indicated. It's Alexis McAllister who's involved with Canos. Canos pushes into the ground. McAllister decides it's a foul, tries to grab it, and then he kind of wades back at Canos and I'm sorry, Sergi.
Get up, Sergi Canos. Should be embarrassed.
Up to the halfway line and Adam Lallana. 6 added minutes then. 2-0 Brentford lead. We've seen stranger things. Into Undav. Back out to Webster. Now McAllister. Veltman offering himself to his right. Out to Solly March on the right-hand side. It's a familiar pattern. Can they find a telling pass or cross to keep it interesting? In towards the head of Lallana. It was a nice flick header. It was a pretty comfortable save, in truth, by David Raya, but once more the Brentford keeper was in the right place and grabbed it securely.
Yeah, it's a simple one from him. Simple save. It's a good movement from Adam Lallana. He's done really well since he's come on, actually. He's the one who's tried to, from central, get in behind the striker of Danny Welbeck and get behind the defence of Brentford. We haven't really seen enough of that. It's been pass, but then no one's trying to get in behind. He's been the one person to do it, but the form that David Ray is in, that was a very simple save for him.
Free kick has gone Brighton's way here, and they're trying to get on with it quickly. Shandon Baptiste with a very strong challenge on Moises Caicedo, which the referee didn't care for. Baptiste has been shown a yellow card and an opportunity for Brighton. I was going to say to hoist one into the Brentford penalty area. That's not really their way. I'm not sure that's the way that they will play it, even in these circumstances. Baptiste did get the ball, but he went in very strongly. Excessive force, and a yellow card shown.
Yeah, he went in hard on the left foot, and his right foot just wrapped around Caicedo as well.
Free kick which McAllister would take. He's only just outside the centre circle. The tall central defenders have gone forward again, so it looks like McAllister is going to try to deliver a high one here into the edge of the penalty area. Welbeck jumps for it, but it's headed away again by Brentford and belted downfield by Ayer up towards Ivan Toney, whose first touch is wonderful, and his second touch comes through the back of McAllister and concedes a free kick. And now a yellow card for Ivan Toney. Well, he's had a lot tonight. 2 goals and a card. Brighton come forward again. Veltman out to the right hand side and March, edge of the penalty area. Roll back to Moises Caicedo with a shot, and it just teases Welbeck as it rolls in front of him. It did take a deflection off a Brentford foot on the way through, and Brighton have a corner kick on the left hand side. We've had 3 of the 6 added minutes. Brentford lead by 2 goals to 0. McAllister back to Mitoma just outside the penalty area. Back wide though, out to McAllister on the left hand side. Solly March offers himself, tries to get Mitoma in behind, cross into the box, but again a really important clearance by Ethan Pinnock. He's been fantastic tonight, and Brighton only have a corner kick on the left hand side. One that Alexis McAllister will take. Right footed from the left hand side. Posse of tall players wait on the edge of the 6-yard box. McAllister into the near post, flicked on and flicked away. Ivan Toney's back there again helping out. Not a very good clearance by De Silva. McAllister has it back via Mitoma, comes back to Caicedo, but Brentford are holding firm. Solly March, square again to McAllister, tries to lift it in, it's charged down by Canos. McAllister again, and Canos is there with a challenge which he celebrates almost like a goal, and McAllister just bowled him to the ground. It looked for a moment it was going to get nasty there, but in the end there was something and nothing between them. I'm not sure how much the referee saw of that. Canos has been a bit of a pest since he came on, in truth, which will delight Brentford, but it's absolutely aggravated Brighton and Hove Albion. On the ball is Adam Lallana, attacking down the left-hand side, Mitoma, but he's been unable to make any real impression tonight, the Japanese international. Brentford clear their lines again. Caicedo is there, slipped into Lallana. Welbeck with a little back heel. Caicedo plays it square. Webster on again. March on the edge of the penalty area. Back to Adam Webster once more. Lallana looking for a return ball. Plays it back into the box again. Undav with a shot. There's Ayer with a block. There's the game really in just 20 seconds. Brighton asking questions, Brentford finding answers. McAllister again coming forward for Brighton. Lallana played into Welbeck just outside the penalty area. Another challenge comes in from Janel, and down goes Undav, but nothing doing. They have defended manfully, the home team.
And there's another Brentford player down with cramp as well. And you're absolutely right, just looking at the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 almost at the back they've got, and yet they're not breaking them down at all, Brighton. They're passing the ball around. There's no one really overlapping. That's the one thing I'd say, that the times that they've got to the byline, then that is very dangerous for any defender to be facing his own goal, but there's not been enough overlapping runs around the outside. It's just been passed out wide, then come back inside, maybe try and put a cross in there. It's been too easy for Brentford, but you have to say, I've said this a few times now in the second half, especially since the second goal, it's been about attack versus defence, and boy have Brentford come up with the answers to anything, any questions that Brighton have posed.
They're nearly there. Long goal kick down the field. Toney trying to escape. Veltman with a challenge. Brentford win. A week on from their worst ever Premier League defeat last weekend at Newcastle. Brentford find a response. A goal in each half from Ivan Toney brings their third Premier League victory of the season, and a result that lifts them above Liverpool in the Premier League table. And they've got quite an interesting game coming up this weekend. Brentford move into 8th place in the table. Thomas Frank, who celebrates 4 years in the job on Sunday, has got the response that he wanted from his team. Different situation completely for Roberto De Zerbi, who will be encouraged in many respects by the 3 Brighton performances that he has seen. But against Liverpool and Tottenham and now Brentford, his team have brought just 1 point home to the South Coast. And Brighton have suffered consecutive Premier League defeats for the first time since March. It's been a compelling game. We said at the start of the evening that these 2 clubs are a credit to the Premier League, and they put on a show that has been a credit to that league this evening. It's finished. Brentford 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 0.